Well, hello students, it's Professor Bell with you today. I wanted to look at a couple of key features of the physical geography and some of the environmental issues of Chapter 7, North Africa and Southwest Asia, and Chapter 10, Central Asia. So if you will, look at these four maps real quick in those chapters, and you can follow along with me. So I'm doing the climate first and the landscape issue, environmental issues second. Then I'm hopefully going to show you some stuff in Google Earth. All right, when you look at this, do pay attention at the amount of desert here. Yes, that dominates for this region across North Africa and Southwest Asia. Not a lot of people live there, though. Where will they live? Along the coasts, and especially where you see the CS Mediterranean climate. So you will see large numbers of people there, or where there are exotic streams and rivers. So what are some of those streams and rivers? Well, certainly the Nile and the Nile Delta. And so basically everybody that lives in Egypt lives basically within 10 miles or so of the Nile right here. You'll also see another river right here where there is the West Bank. The West Bank in Jerusalem, Palestine area. When they talk about this is the West Bank of the Jordan River. It's a short river and runs into the Sea of Galilee, and then eventually terminates into the Dead Sea, and both of those are lakes. Anyway, because they're inside, they're not connected to the ocean. And then two more very strategic rivers right here. That's the Euphrates here and Tigris, which form part of that Mesopotamia, the land between the rivers, and that Fertile Crescent, which you've read about in your textbooks. We'll see the Amu Darya here and the Sirdarya here. When we get to Central Asia, and I'll show you about the Karakum Canal when we get there as well. Okay, so looking here too, let's see, where you will find the deserts in North Africa and Southwest Asia. That third letter that you see here, the BSH step, HISA from Alfred Wegener, Vladimir Kirpin's climate system, and then the VUSTA WH. The H, though, is the point here. These are deserts. They're always dry to varying degrees, but these are hot deserts. Look on this map, though, here, and you can see a BSK right there. And right here, that means those are cold deserts. And what you'll see is that these are all the hot deserts, the Sahara, the Arabian. But then when we go to Central Asia, all of them are BS and BWK because these are cold deserts. So if you want to even compare the flora and fauna, let's just give you an idea here. Everybody knows what a camel is, but they're two different kinds. Well, there are many different kinds, actually, if we consider the llamas and other camelids. But in Central Asia, you have what are called Bactrian camels, and these are shaggier two-hump camels, whereas we have dromedaries in Africa and Southwest Asia, which are one-hump camels, the ones you're mostly used to looking at. Let's see what else. We will look at some center pivot irrigation because your irrigation is vital here. You do have enough rainfall in the sea areas, the Mediterranean areas, to grow crops, and gosh, it's abundant. Apricots and the viticulture, the vine growing for grapes, certainly good for wheat. They have lots of couscous, for instance, here. Another, it's pasta except in balls, rather than spaghetti like you'd see in Italy, which is the same area. But take a look at those products of those regions and you'll know what I mean. If you look at the BS areas, though, these are areas where you can have grazing of cattle, sheep, goats. So if you were to look, for instance, over in Morocco, they grow a lot, lots of carpet making over here. They use a lot of the fur of the goats to do some of this with. So anyway, what are the types of plants that they have here in the desert regions, though? Well, these are xerophytes. And xerophytes, guys, are ones that are drought resistant. They may have, for instance, very waxy leaves, maybe spiny. The root systems may be a deep tap root, which doesn't care if it ever rains again or not, because they'll drink that. Look in your textbooks and look for paleo water or fossil water, and you'll see what I'm talking about. They can go down in there and suck that up, or they may have a very shallow root system, which allows them to take advantage of the rain that comes to a desert. So let me tell you about desert rain. It is highly erratic. It's very short-lived, ephemeral. It comes in torrents and then is over with very quickly. I'll see if I can show you a quick video within this video of a hailstorm that caused an ice wadi. See, wadi's right here, this term right here. A wadi is a dry riverbed until it rains. And so there was a very popular video that popped out on social media of a guy with his cell phone out there. Not a cloud in the sky, but it had rained and hailed somewhere else and just formed this river. So when you look at these wadis, that's what we're talking about. Also, a lot of the habitation that goes on around here does include around wadis. So if you look in Egypt and many of these places here, you'll see it be called wadi this and wadi that. I'm going to show you one in Egypt. But also tells. Tells are these layered man-built communities. And so you know about Tel Aviv, a very large city, comparable to large cities around here in Jerusalem. But a tell is a long-standing place that has been built up over, well, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, in fact, millennia. And then this last term right here, Levant. The Levant is this area right here. So this is the development in the eastern part of the Mediterranean. The Arabs would refer to, the Levantine Jews or something like that. But you'd also see in Arabic they call it Al-Maghreb, the Isle of the West, which is over here in the Atlas Mountains, and the Al-Mashriq, the Isle of the East, which is kind of this area along the coastline. And so that said, let me move ahead because I don't want to belabor it too much. Looking out here again, cold climates mostly desert climates, but wherever there's water, like in the Fergana Valley, this area right in here is a highland climate, but it's really nice, and we could show you some of that around river valleys, and then highland altiplanos, as you learned from chapter 4. We will see that they do build canals here, as they did, for instance, back here in the Suez Canal. We can look at this as a choke point also, but they built the Karakum Canal, and I'll try to show you that in Google Earth as well. And also the use of alluvial fans in high elevation areas, which is a water source for the people. And you've got a nice satellite image of it on page 332 in chapter 10 that you can see where a lot of people are farming on those things. All right, let me show you this too real quick. We're going to look at this map, the Great Man-Made River. I'm going to show you where this fossil water, this paleo water, is coming out of the deserts here for Libya. We're going to see that the choke points, let me see if I can get my cursor back here. The Suez Canal is a choke point, the Bab el-Mandeb Strait right here, and of course the Strait of Hormuz. These are water choke points, but there are other ones as well, and one would be, for instance, in Afghanistan, moving into Pakistan, outside of Kabul here. It's called, I just lost it. I should have written it down. If I think of it, I'll pop out and tell you about it again. But choke points are strategic passageways that can be shut off very quickly, and they're very, because they move people or goods or oil or water, something like that, they can be cut off very easily by force or threat of force. And so I'll see if I can't remember that valley. Okay, sorry, desertification is a big problem here because carrying capacity of the land's very low. And so in these areas where you see these are true deserts right here, but the expansion of the desert and what's intended here is by human use of farming it too much, having too many animals exceeding the carrying capacity expands the desert. We'd also see trying to farm these soils leads to a buildup of salt on the soils. And then I'll stop here with the desalinization of water. We're going to see a desalinization plant here called Sorek, I think it's Sorek, in Israel. So they are using the water to their advantage. Of course, there is all kinds of pollution wherever the oil is for here. So Saudi Arabia and the waterways around here, of course, are going to be polluted with oil. And the same for the rivers too, if they're putting too many fertilizers, pesticides and things like that on crops and then putting it out into the rivers, and it runs out from there. All right, so let's look here. First, I want to go into Libya, and I'm going to show you this great man-made river. I put this place mark in so you could see how they hauled in all of the piping that would go in to make this river. And it's underground, of course, but where there's the water coming from. So if you go close into this area, you'll see that if you get close enough in Google Earth, you can make out right away that there's plenty of water out here, and you can see that they have center pivot irrigation doing that. There's another spot right up here as well. Okay, so you can find that stuff in the desert, and there's little airports out here so people can go, engineers and others, to go check on it, work on it, and make sure everything works out fine. Next, I want to show you Wadi al-Hitan. It means Whale Valley. So this is a really neat place. If you'll ever look it up, it's about where there's a lot of fossils out here that show all the different. This used to be under the ocean, of course, and over hundreds of thousands, in fact, millions of years, we see intermediate forms of mammals of the sea. So whales are mammals, and what we see is that their legs slowly evolve back into flippers and things like this. And so we have a lot of those intermediate forms here. And I used to look at a long time ago, they finally actually built here a museum, and this is in Egypt, so you can go and see this if you want and look around. Here is the Sorek desalination plant, and it's producing a lot of water. And it's very different from other kinds because they are doing reverse osmosis, but they're doing a lot of other stuff. And what's key here is the Israelis are sharing that with their neighbors, the Arabs. And hopefully with this technology, it's a boon to all, and which would bring peace to the Middle East. And that's a big deal for them because, it's very difficult and they don't have it very often. Now, out in this area, this is called the Rub al-Khali. This is pointed out in your textbook as being the empty quarter, but we'll see not much going on out here. A quarter of this desert here is truly sand, so nothing. But if you'll pay attention to where there is fossil water or paleo water, you'll see this center pivot irrigation. So as you saw in Texas and the Ogallala Aquifer, this is what they do. They tap into it and distribute that water out over the crops. Okay, let me back out again here and see if I can show you the Strait of Hormuz. I think you can see that one pretty easily from your maps, but I'll show it to you here. This is it. So here's that strategic choke point. Want to show you, my time's running short. It's going to be less than a 15-minute video, so I'll show you the Karakum Canal. So this is one of the reservoirs on that canal, but if you go really close down in here, you can see where the Amu Darya River was diverted away from its original course. And so if you get close enough down here, guys, you will see this water running through the desert. Of course, that contributes to what you saw earlier in chapter 7, that is the death of the Aral Sea. And so I'll try to show you that real quick right up here. What was the world's 4th largest lake is now a shadow of its former self. It just doesn't work if you don't have these rivers flowing into it. And they've been used to grow cotton during the time of the Soviet Union. Uzbekistan is still, I believe, the 2nd largest producer and exporter of cotton. So, it's hard to have a sea, and it was a salt sea because it has high evaporation rates. Now check this one out as we wrap up here. This one is into that area of western China. So you've got a reservoir that's right up here. That means they've tapped into this water. They built a dam here and they're holding it back. So this is a reservoir. And look at the elevation here real quick, and you'll see how high the elevation is, over 6,000 feet in places. But then it comes right through here and forms this alluvial fan. So when you see these alluvial fans, why they're so good at eroding is because in these narrow mountain valleys right here, they're really constricted. So they move very fast there and erode a lot. But when they burst out of that and it comes down this hillside, it's lost all its velocity and all of its ability to carry that debris. Okay, that sediment load. So it'll lay it out here, and when it builds up too much in one area, it'll deposit it somewhere else. So these alluvial fans, again, check your textbook, but some of them are quite fertile, and you can farm them. Double check that for the Fergana Valley as well. I've run out of time. It's in your book though, and you can see how 3 countries there are all wrapped together. This is the Fergana right here, and how very good it is for them to grow crops in, and why there's so many people there. All right, this is the best I could do with this topic, so I hope it suffices, guys. Look around, read, use your Google Earth, and learn more about our planet. Now, I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.